Hello, congratulations, and welcome back to the Wong Way to Success. I'm so glad that you've taken your first step towards the Wong Way to securing an A star in A-level biology in just 6 months. So, who's this training for? If you are a parent of a sixth form student who wants your child to gain an A star A-level biology, this is for you. If you're a parent who is worried that your child is not getting the right support at school in biology and you want them to reach new heights with additional support, this is for you. If you're a parent who values your child's education and you want them to build a bright future and a career such as dentistry and medicine or veterinary science, this is also for you. And also, if you are a parent who is prepared to invest the time, energy, and effort to help your child secure an A star, this is for you. And lastly, most of all, if you're a parent who's looking for a clear and actionable plan to help your child stay motivated to enjoy learning biology, then this is for you. So here's what you will learn in this training. The first goal is how you can measure progress without waiting for school exams to help your child identify and improve knowledge gaps. The second goal is how your child will be able to retain key knowledge after every lesson to enhance their study skills and cognitive thinking so that they can recall this on exam day. And thirdly, what are the best strategies to answer key questions that will help them secure the top marks in their exams, which aren't always necessarily taught at school. So let's make an agreement. I promise I'm going to show you in this training how to help your child, or if you are a child yourself, then yourself, gain an A star in A-level biology and get into the dream university and dream career. And if so, then please promise and agree to me that you will actually take action on what I share. So now, if you're wondering why you or your child isn't seeing the progress you want at school, and perhaps you feel frustrated because you as a parent don't have the time, knowledge, or patience to help, and if you as a parent perhaps find it impossible to get your child to enjoy biology, or if you yourself can't seem to enjoy biology, and if you have tried getting a tutor or being tutored at the moment, but it still is not making a difference, then let me tell you why that's the case. Well, if you were just relying on the school teacher, this is not always helpful because they can't help every single student in the class which has all different types of abilities. They may not necessarily be a subject specialist as well in some cases, depending on the school that you're in and the resources they have been able to find. Secondly, you may not be in the right winning environment where you have everyone in your class all being very competitive, all wanting to succeed. Maybe some members of your class are just happy to coast along, and being in an environment, it feels quite difficult to push ahead because there's peer pressure to kind of look cool and not necessarily focus on your studies itself and doing everything possible to progress academically. And perhaps you may have been just using revision guides and thinking doing more revision, using those revision guides, or perhaps doing more homework will help you get the grades. But that doesn't necessarily always help. It depends what you're doing with those revision guides and how you're doing the homework and what sort of homework you're doing. Because remember, it's studying smart rather than studying hard that will get you the top grades. But first, here's a little bit about me. My name is Jonathan Wong. I am the founder of the Wong Way to Success method. I have over 10 years experience of teaching level biology. I have helped hundreds achieve A or A star in biology. I have also helped hundreds of students become doctors and dentists. I myself am a former medical student. I got into Imperial College. That's where I did my undergraduate degree. I then went on to do a teaching certificate, a postgraduate cert in education. And after that, I took up a master's in biomedical research. I'm also a member of the Royal Society of Biology, where I keep up to date with the latest developments in the biological world and pass them on to my students to inspire them. And I thought at this point it would be nice to show you some of the testimonials that I have received from students. On the left, we have a student uh, who was was dyslexic and found it very hard to organize her thoughts, found it very hard to revise, didn't really know how to apply what she had learned in an exam situation. And we worked very hard in helping her learn how to kind of organize her thoughts and put it down in a logical sequence on paper and making sure that she had included all of the key terms needed to gain top marks. And that's what she did. She got an A in biology, and she is currently at the University of Bristol studying biological sciences. On the right here, I have testimonial from a parent who I taught both her two daughters in science, in all three science subjects at GCSE, and they were applying to sixth form colleges, and they ended up in the sixth form colleges of their choice, having both scored nines in their GCSE science exams. And, they were quite different, these two girls, in terms of their needs and preferences and strengths. But, what I did was to really check that how I was helping them was tailored to their needs. So let me introduce you to the 4-step One Way to Success method. And this really consists of three things, okay? What I call the learning trifecta. This is having the right strategy, which is the one-way method. This is getting into the right habits and also being in the right environment. So when you have a group of students who are all working with the same goals in mind, everyone pushes each other, everyone helps each other out and pushes each other along. And habits, and this is where you're getting into a regular program where you're regularly going and revisiting material that will help you retain knowledge and be able to recall it later. And having a clear strategy helps you to get from one point to the next, rather than waffling your way around and never really knowing whether you'll get there or not. So grab a pen and paper so that you can see how and make a couple of notes of how the One Way to Success program works. So the first step is where we diagnose. We diagnose how, what weaknesses a student has. Most students are tested infrequently, and as a result, they have no idea what they actually need to focus on. So it's a bit overwhelming, and they continue to just try and take on board as much information as possible. They'll read lots of different textbooks, read lots of different revision guides, try and do more homework, but it's not necessarily relevant. It's a bit like having a plane which has no clear start point, so it can't actually fly. So what we do here is to make sure that there is a clear starting point. And this happens through, at the start of the program, we will assess you. At the end of the 12 weeks, we will reassess you again. And then we plan ahead based on those findings from those assessments. We will do this in a really precise way. This will help us plan a precise route and focus that makes learning a lot more straightforward. It's a bit like a pilot, who knows that he's starting at London Heathrow and his destination is JFK Airport in New York. So step two, what we do is to develop. And what we're doing is, first of all, let's step back a little bit. Schools have a fixed curriculum that the government tells them that they must follow. And usually this means they have to do things in quite a restrictive way. There's just one way to go to get through the specification of the syllabus. And then schools, being very large institutions, will have to set classes according to students' ability. But even then, that's quite hard when you've got 30 or so students that you have to place in each class and select from a year group of, say, 180. It's quite hard to accurately place students together. And quite often schools try to, balance out behavioral issues, and this might impact on others' learning. The other way that setting might happen is that it may also depend quite simply on the availability of specialist staff, or staff preferences of which sets they want to teach as well. So, it's always going to be really tricky to try to meet the needs of individual students in a school setting. It's a bit like, imagine you're trying to cater for a group of friends coming over for dinner, and every single one of them has a different dietary requirement, like lactose intolerant, gluten intolerant. One doesn't eat shellfish, perhaps, and it is very hard when you've got a large group of them and trying to tailor it to them. So here, what we'll try and do is we will make sure that your child's weaknesses, if identified, are such as things like math skills, data analysis skills, metacognitive skills, are developed. And we'll use cognitive science approaches to make sure that these skills are properly embedded and developed. And this is because these skills really are the foundation to doing very well in sciences, in biology as well, but all three sciences. And this can easily take up to 20% of the marks. And, it is easily 1 to 2 grades difference. And so you don't want to lose out on that. Step 3, decipher. So, it's really easy to have, got all the information. You have managed to get it in your head. You've managed to be able to recall all of that information. But then actually on the exam day, somehow you still don't get the answers, you don't get the marks, even though you think you've written down all the correct and necessary information. Well, the thing is, students are frequently taught the information they need to know, but quite often not actually trained on how to apply that information. But really what matters most to get that top grade is to be able to retain the information and also apply that information. And if you've got information, but you can't apply it, that's going to lead to a lot of frustration. You've spent so much time revising, you've spent so much time working, but that does not translate to actual results on the day. And that can be incredibly frustrating. Imagine you've learned French, you've spent months learning all the individual words, perhaps through an app, but you've never spoken it in full sentences. And perhaps you then decide, oh, wow, I've done 6 months on this app. And so I'm going to take a trip to Paris And on your first day there, you get there and you're trying to order cafe au lait, but the server has no idea what you are trying to order and instead brings you a cassoulet. Quite different. Coffee versus um, roasted chicken with beans and sausages. Um, So, in fact, what happens here when we, in this stage, in this step of the one way to success method, we will teach your child how to understand command words, things like what does the question mean when it says compare? What does it mean when it says evaluate? What does it mean when it says determine, for example? We will teach them also how to interpret mark schemes so that when they do the practice, they then look through the mark schemes and they actually understand it and mark it in exactly the way that examiners want. And that is usually what is the difference between a B grade student and those achieving an A star and A, where they've truly been able to decipher what the examiner wants. And lastly, step 4, distribute. Here we've used the latest in cognitive science research. And what we want to know is that they can see consistent performance indicators to see how they're doing regularly. And we want this to be distributed out. So what we call spaced out retrieval practice. It needs to be spaced out, this regular testing, this retrieval practice. That's what it is, regular testing. But we want it to be spaced out. It needs to be spaced out because then that allows time for new connections between nerves in the brain. And that's actually what stores things into long-term memory. Time is needed for this. Sleep is needed for this. Now, there's no point trying to put stuff into memory if it's not retrieved, if you are not forced to recall that memory. If you're not going to recall that memory, your brain thinks that's not something that it needs to keep in. And so it's going to forget it. Those neurons where those memories were originally made will just be removed. It will be broken down. You will not have those memories again. Okay. So it's really important that to keep things in the long-term memory, regular retrieval, calling out of that information again is done. And what we do here is we will use real life testing of actual exam style questions that they might meet later down the line. So that also helps to build their confidence and experience. And of course, that continues to identify any weaknesses that they have so that when the time comes, they know how to deal with any issues. So let me recap very quickly. The one way to success method consists of 4 steps. Number 1, we'll diagnose. Number 2, we'll develop key skills. Number 3, we will learn to decipher mark schemes and command terms. And number 4, we will have regular distributed retrieval practice. And, I'd just like to again show you some more testimonials from some of my students. Here I have a student who got straight A's in all of his subjects, including the 3 sciences that I taught him. And he has in fact gone on to study at Duke University, one of the Ivy League universities in the US. And secondly, here I have a mother who I tutored all 3 of her sons over a period of 10 years. The first son got an A star in biology and is now studying biochemistry at Imperial College. The second son has got a 9 in GCSE and is now continuing his 6th form studies. And the final son has just also finished his GCSE and got a 9. So, congrats on reaching the end of your training. If you're still here right now, you've clearly made a commitment to take action. So remember that agreement we made at the start. Let's have a serious chat about how your child can start getting the guidance and help they need to gain an A-star in A-level biology. Let's build them out a clear roadmap, clear game plan, so they at least know what to focus on. And if it makes sense, we can even talk about what it would look like exactly when we work together, what the program looks like in the full details of actual sessions and things like that. So please book your student session below if you haven't already done so. Ultimately in life, there are always three choices. You either guess your way around, you work really, really hard, but you still don't get there, or you have a proven framework. It takes out the guesswork involved. You know there's a right path to it. You just need to put in the work and take action and follow that framework to get there. So, taking action is really important, and that's what these three people have in common. They did not give up even when things were not looking good. They followed the framework. Every time they failed, they tried and tried again. Despite all of the challenges that they faced, they kept trying and trying and trying, again, following a fixed framework, and eventually they became great in their fields. So, if you haven't already scheduled your success session, then please do schedule it in and take action. I'm looking forward to speaking with you, and I'm so excited to get you on your journey, on your child's journey to bagging that A star in A-level biology. Speak soon.